Welcome back from the episode of the Chamber Podcast. My name is Rob Johnson. We have a very special episode for you today. We have two guests in studio. Joining me is Emmalyn Wheaton. She is the Executive Director of the Hartland Chamber of Commerce. And Kelly McPherson. She is the owner of Animal Crackers with locations in Hartland and South Lyon. Ladies, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
See, you could have totally done that intro. That would have been just fine.
You would have nailed it.
Yeah.
Excellent. So we are here today. As we're recording this, it's towards the end of February. You have a new location opening up for Animal Crackers in South Lyon. So I know when I saw this come across on our form submission for guests that are on the show, I was like, oh, someone who makes animal crackers is coming on the show. That's pretty cool. And then I clicked into it and I'm like, oh no, this is very different. So Kelly, I want to know just more about the business, how it was named, how you got into it. And then we'll talk about the new location and get Emmalyn involved here as well.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, thanks for having me and for having the opportunity to share my story. I was an at-home mom for 9.5 years and just loved kids and dogs and got involved with have Shih Tzus are the dog choice of my dog breed of my choice. And so got involved with them and I was like, oh, I think I'd like to, I bring my dog to the groomer and I was at home mom and I'm like, I'd really like to learn how to groom dogs. And so once I knew my youngest biological child, we have 6 now, but at the time we had 3, we adopted 3 additional kids after that. But once my youngest daughter was going to school full time, I really wanted to get a job that I worked my whole life, and 9.5 years being an at-home mom was great, but it was time to get back into the workforce. But I really wanted to do something at this point that I enjoyed and loved. And so I was fortunate enough, and we lived in Rhode Island at the time, and there were no dog grooming schools. So I was fortunate enough to go down the phone book, because that's what we used back then, was a phone book, and called every single grooming salon in Rhode Island, which it's 45 minutes from one point of Rhode Island to the furthest point. So anything in between would be just fine for me.
Sure.
So I begged every salon to let me come in and volunteer so they could teach me. And so the last salon I picked said, yeah, sure, why not? Come on in, you free labor? Heck yeah. So so I volunteered any chance I had for about a year. And then and that was all with the knowledge of that we were going to move to Michigan. And so kind of what my husband did was he bribed me to move to Michigan that I could open my own business. So I was like, okay, this will work. So yeah, we opened up in 2008. It was the heart of the recession. And it was really absolutely bizarre that somebody was moving from the East Coast to Michigan to open a business, which was absolutely, unheard of, so much so that the Livingston County Press and Argus did a huge article on this phenomenon that was happening. And
well, you're basically moving from one terrible part of the country facing a banking recession to another one that's facing an automotive recession.
Exactly. And the best part was my husband was a general manager for a car dealership. So it was really an interesting twist, hence the reason that the newspaper picked the article up, and it was just unheard of. And I think a lot of people thought, oh, they're crazy. And we kept joking around because we bought this house on a foreclosure, and we told all of our neighbors, ha ha ha, we're going to foreclose on the forecloser. We're going to take everybody down. So it was pretty interesting. And so the name came about because I, again, the phone book, when everybody looked at the phone book, I wanted to be the first one that you would look up pet grooming. So I wanted to be an A. I wanted to start with A. And I just absolutely loved Shirley Temple. And Shirley Temple sang the song Animal Crackers in My Soup. So I thought, here we go. So that's how I named it.
That's awesome.
That is the best business naming story I think I've ever heard.
Yeah, that's really good. That's a lot more inspirational than mine, which was just a late night at a bar. I was like, well, lay on that. It'll be fine.
It is a good one.
So walk me through what it was feeling like to be in the middle of a recession. Obviously, no stranger to the where the real estate market was at that point, and then saying, okay, I'm going to go and open a new business in a new state, brand new city. What was the emotions and feelings like as you were doing that?
So I'm really kind of a very spontaneous person. And everybody jokes around me that once I get an idea in my mind, I don't really think about it. I just do it. Everything I'm doing is driving towards doing whatever it is that I've set my mind to. So I never had fear. I didn't, people expected, oh, aren't you scared? No, what do I have to lose? Come on now. So it was just, everything, it was just an exciting time. It was very exciting. I was thankful. And really after the newspaper, which was totally unexpected, but after the newspaper put that article in, I came to work the following Saturday to a line of people waiting to get in. And I was like, oh my word. I called my husband. It was a Saturday. I called my husband. I'm like, you need to get down here. You
Get your clippers.
You need to start washing dogs for me. I'm never going to get these dogs done. It was just me. I was my only employee. And I'm like, I can't do all these dogs. What am I going to do? But of course, the paper asked me, well, do you run by appointment? Heck no. Come on in. Walk in. It's just, come on. Just come. So they all came. And I pulled up and I'm like, oh my word, a line waiting to get in. It was pretty interesting.
So from 2008 to, let's say, last year, 2023, in that 15-year span, what did the growth in the business look like over that time?
Well, is that there was, this was an amazing business to get into at the time that I did, because it was still so, we think about our grandparents. They didn't have their dogs in the house. They fed them scraps, and they were outside on the farm keeping the chickens away, or keeping the chickens safe. So you've gone from that to now people have their dogs sleeping in their bed, right? So the whole industry that I have seen in the past 16 years, 17 years has really just, it has just boomed. So I was very, very fortunate to get in when I did. So the growth in the business, it started out just me. And then shortly thereafter made my first 2 hires, one of which is still with me. And then made my next hire. He's still with me. And then we were in this teeny tiny, 800 square foot office that I had turned into a grooming salon. And then when I was pretty much working by myself, I would have the dogs, when they were done and they were waiting for their owners to come pick them up, I'd put them in a crate so they were safe. And anyway, but then they'd start barking. So I'm like, okay, I can't have this poor dog barking. I felt bad. It was in the crate. So then I let it out of the crate, and it's just running around and it's playing and totally relaxed. And then I'd get done with the dog I had, and they both seemed to really like each other. So I put it down, and then they'd start playing. And then all of a sudden it just morphed into this thing, which no one did free roam grooming back then. It just morphed on its own because I didn't want to stress the dogs out. And I thought, oh, I don't want them barking, and I want them to have fun, and they're waiting for their owner to come. And so then the owner started coming, and they're like, oh my word, my dog is playing with other dogs. They didn't have dog parks and things back then.
Yeah.
So it just morphed into this thing. And then everybody was coming because they wanted their dog to be able to play with other dogs. You'd have clients come in, and I am not joking with you, they would cry when they saw their dogs play with other dogs. And then it just kind of morphed. And then I was like, oh, I think I need a bigger building. I need to get into a bigger spot. Well, then I met Leslie Beauchamp's sister at a soccer game. And I was saying, I need to find another spot. She's like, oh, my sister, you should talk to them. They have a bunch of buildings and stuff. So then I rented the back half of Jared's building, which is on Old 23, which used to be the rental store. Well, then everybody was like, you're never going to make the go of being in the back of a building. I'm like, well, I got to do something. And this is a guy who's going to take a chance on me. I'm begging him, Jared, please. I know you don't know me, but please, I'm a hard worker. It's going to go well. I want to add daycare and overnight boarding. I just know in my heart it's going to do really, really well. And so sure enough, it so he did. He let me rent the back half of the building. And so we expanded and we added employees, and that just boomed. Well, then we outgrew the 6,000 square feet that he rented me. And then I was like, Jared, I kind of need to buy the building from you. We had talked about potentially buying the building. It's 12,500 square feet. And so I said, I'm kind of at a point where I really need to buy it. Otherwise, I've got to move, and I don't want to move. And he's like, yeah, I'll sell it to you. So he sold it to me. So we moved there. We started in 2008. We moved to the back of the building 2012. 2015, we bought the building, and we utilize every inch of that place now. And so we went from one employee to, I run between 50 and 55 employees now. The growth that we've been able to see it's been so rewarding because we get to give back so much to the community. We sponsor all the Hartland therapy dogs in the school district. I sponsor a golden retriever named Chili at Brighton Hospital. We are able to give back to the community in ways like sponsoring the sports teams and the athletic department and the heritage fields. We also are heavily involved in the LESA program at the Hartland High School. So kids that have barriers, they get to come in during their day and work at Animal Crackers. And there are people that come in that are very, that are on the spectrum, high functioning, and then some that are not as high functioning. And so it gives them an opportunity for some life skills. It gives them an opportunity to really be around dogs and to potentially have a job. And so I've got, one employee in particular who's like, got to be 24 now. He started when he was 15. And he has barriers, and he's just absolutely hilarious. So we are so fortunate to have him on for as long as he has been. We were able to kind of create a job for him. And then we have, many other employees that are there that I feel like if that's what I can do and give back to our community, think about it. If you are around a dog, like if you're someone who has social anxiety or you struggle in your life for various reasons, you're always worried about what people think about you. And, do they like me, or do they, did I do this right? Did I do that right? You don't have to feel that way when it comes to a dog. A dog loves you no matter what. And there's always that long joke about, hey, if you take your dog and your wife and you put them in the back of your trunk of your car and you drive around town like a maniac and you open the trunk, your dog is so excited to see you, even though you're the one that stuck him in the trunk. So you think about it like that. So these employees come and they absolutely, they love their job, and it's a job where they're not being judged and they're being loved on and they're able to give back. And so though all those things I'm so thankful for.
That's great. So Emmalyn, I want to get you in the conversation here. So tell me how you first discovered Animal Crackers, came into contact with the work that they do, and how is the Hartland Chamber involved here?
So I first met Kelly probably a little over a year ago. And when I started at the chamber, we were looking at businesses locally that we knew were very involved with the community, but maybe not involved with the chamber and our mission there. And so we reached out to Kelly, and she was like, well, yeah, I want to be a part of that too. And she, like everything she does, she came into it like gangbusters, right? Like she was all in from the get-go. And I worked with horses for a really long time. And so being two people that worked with animals, like we know that they're like the great equalizer, right? There's something about that will level the playing field for anybody, right? And so her mission and her activity in the community is something that I definitely I connect with, and I know that she has similar passions to what I have. And so we just really get along well. And I love having her as part of our chamber. And she truly is like a community ambassador. She loves our community and she loves what happens there. And she's invested in what we do. And her kids all go to school there. So she's just an incredible business partner and somebody that has brought so much value to our community. I'm so lucky to have her.
We're lucky to have you. So lucky that I could call Emmalyn and say, will you come with me?
And I said, gladly, anytime.
Great. Well, I'm glad that you both were able to make time to come in so I can learn more about the business. And it's always nice having you in the studio, Emmalyn. And what I want to talk about is the expansion. So when you said that you have 50, 55 employees, that stopped my train of thought for a moment, because typically, I think I told you when we were in the hallway, I've taken my dog to several groomers and he hates them all. And he comes home like
because he hasn't met me.
Right. That's where I'm going with this is that he comes home like a trauma victim. Like, like he's, I need to wrap him in a blanket and take care of him for a week before he's back on his feet. And being able to scale a grooming boarding business to 50 employees is almost, it seems to be an insurmountable feat that you've accomplished. And now you're looking at opening in South Lyon, and that's coming up very quickly in the next few days here. So 2-part question. One, what do you think is behind driving that much growth in an industry like yours? And then second, what made you want to make the decision to expand into South Lyon?
So I really feel I feel like people love their pets like they're their children. And if you give them a space where they can treat them like their children, like daycare, you think about it, we have all these cute little buckets. If you look on the website that has their dog's name on it, and they have that little bucket bin, and they get to have their stuff in there. And, you have clients that drop off on their way to work and often are calling, hi, I'm going to be able to get out of work a little early today. So please don't feed Charlie his dinner because I really want him to have dinner with me. And
oh my gosh, I love that.
So you give them that space where they can really enjoy their dog in the way that they want to enjoy their dog. And then in addition to that, having a place where they know they're going to go and have fun and be tired. People want pets, but the difficult part of owning a pet is you get home from work and you're tired, and the last thing you want to do is take your dog for a 3-mile run, and or you don't want to come home and your couch is half eaten because you were gone all day. And and people are notorious for, I hate to say this, but not picking the right breed for their lifestyle. So this allows people to get really essentially any breed dog that they can, their dog can go and blow off some steam, have some fun. They have their best friends while they're there. And then you pick up on your way home from work. You're tired. They're tired. You get to, you both did your thing. Now you get to come home and relax together.
And have dinner together.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
You know what is really cool, though, is if you are ever, like, we were grabbing coffee. This was like a couple weeks ago. And this woman walks into the coffee shop, and Kelly knows her name, and she knows her dog's name. A dog that had passed like a couple of years ago or something, right?
Yeah.
But that's the connection Kelly has, right? Like she knows these people personally, and she knows their dogs. And that really truly is something that I think has really made you grow as much as you have, because you care about those people, but you also really care about your employees. You want to see them do well.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a big reason why I expanded into doing the grooming school, was because I started taking, really great employees that, had potential to do so much more with their lives and have the ability to have a career in a job that they love. So I started teaching them how to groom different, I'd kind of handpick employees. So now we just started the grooming school, which is huge too, because that expands even outside of animal crackers. There aren't a lot of schools. There's one in Lansing. There's like 1 or 2 up in the UP. And I think there's one way on the west side of the state. So this, one thing that we're lacking definitely is good groomers. And so being able to expand into that area as well has been really wonderful, because you can take people who want to do a job within the pet industry, but maybe not. They can't afford to go to a 4-year school or go to be a veterinarian or whatnot. So this allows them a 600-hour certified program where they can learn how to be a groomer, and then they can work anywhere. I say if you're a groomer, you can work anywhere in the world, as long as that, probably not a third world country where they you probably don't get their dogs groomed there, but
Probably just eat them.
yes,
Perhaps.
but really almost.
That's a different skill set.
Right.
Yeah. And I do have a story about that at one point. So, but anyway, but yeah, you can get a job anywhere in the world where they do dog grooming, as long as you can get over the language barrier.
Sure.
I mean, that's awesome.
Absolutely. So I guess, what is it like to have that much infrastructure in place in an area and then still continue to manage it? Because 50 employees is a lot. Having your grooming school is a lot. Opening another location. How do you manage all of that, or what people do you bring around you to help you with that effort?
So I'm really fortunate that this has turned into really a family business. So my husband was able to leave his big career job. He had always run car dealerships. And so he was a general manager. That's how we met, actually. That was my job before I had my kids. So my husband has worked with me for the last 11 years. And then our son, all of our kids have worked with us, as they're growing up. But really, we have one son who is 22 and who's taken a real interest in the business. And he'll be running the South Lyon store.
Oh, wow.
So I'll work alongside him until he's ready for the training wheels to come off. But he's ready to take a big step, and I'm really very fortunate that he has the same love for business and dogs, and I think he's going to do really, really great.
So thinking back 20 years ago, it's 2004. Was any of this on your roadmap for this is how things were going to play out in the next 20 years?
No, honestly, no. And that's why people are like, oh my gosh, like you looking at it where you're at right now. And I say it was really effortless because it just kind of morphed on its own. Just the way it happened. It started off with me buying my first Shih Tzu, and my business mind, I'm like, I could get a female too. And
and then we could have more.
Yes. And then I'm like, I have more, but now I got to pay for all this grooming. I got to learn how to do this myself. So then I started tinkering around. I'm like, I actually really like this. This is fun. Think about it. Every groomer creates a one-of-a-kind work of art.
Yeah. That's
It
how
really
I feel.
is
That's how
pretty
I feel when I
cool.
cut my dog. Every time it's different. It truly is one of a kind.
You just have to reframe that. It's
Right.
art.
That's true.
It's
That's
art
what I
each
told
time.
my wife. I was like, listen, I'm done here creating masterpieces.
Exactly. Add a little flair to it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm sure he likes that too. He's like, that's my skin. You shouldn't cut that.
He's like, I'm embarrassed to go in public, but thank you.
Yeah.
It's so
He'll be
funny.
fine. I'll get over it. So when you go to a Hartland Chamber event and you give people an elevator pitch, what are the top level services that you tell people that you do at Animal Crackers?
I always say we do grooming, doggy daycare, overnight boarding, and then we have a small retail store. So it's all combined in one. And it's just a fun place. It's like a one-stop shop. Your dog can come here for boarding, have fun and play while you're on vacation, come home and he's all groomed and pretty, and you can get some treats on your way home and little coat if you need it, and you're good to go.
That's cool.
I needed to board my dog a couple weekends ago, and I usually have somebody that comes to the house and hangs out with the dogs because I have 3 Boston Terriers, or terrorists, depending on how you look at them. And so I try not to unload that on anybody. But Kelly's like, oh, just call. And I call and they're like, oh, yeah, like no sweat. I was like, really? You'll just take my 3 dogs? They're like, yeah. Bring them on in. I was like, okay, thank you. Oh my gosh. It was just, they're so nice. And every time you call, they're happy to hear from you. You have great people that work for you.
I'm so
which
fortunate.
starts at the top. It just does.
And I have a lot of employees who've been with me for many, many, many years. And I will tell you that continuity is huge.
Yeah.
It is. It's really so important. And I think that really goes back to we're a family. Animal Crackers family is what we are. I've taught I've taught a couple of employees how to drive, almost died a few times. You try to be there for them on all levels. I had one groomer who had a son, and she was like, I can't work. I can't afford daycare. And I'm like, well, just go in. You make me money. I'll watch your kid. And so I used to babysit her little son. He was an infant. How could you say no? Come on. So, you just kind of pull it together, and you're there, and you're there for good times and bad times. But then it's you get the return of them also, loving their job and loving the environment they're in. So it's like everybody works together, and we're really fortunate. I mean, you always have some experience with someone who's disgruntled or whatever. You try your best with every single employee, but I would say I've been so, so fortunate with the staff that we've had, that we continue to have.
Well, it shows in that growth and development. It has to come from a stable culture that radiates, as you said, Emmalyn, from the top. So it's obviously very clear that's what's happening there.
Well, thank you.
And I'm really excited that you're expanding into South Lyon.
Me too.
It's closer to my house. That's what,
Well, maybe your dog can have a real piece of artwork.
Right. Are you saying what I'm doing is not a real piece of artwork?
Maybe there's room for growth. Maybe there's room for growth.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely, I'll stick to marketing for sure.
What is really unique about the South Lyon store is that the whole area is open, and so when your dog comes in for grooming, there's a whole agility area, so they can run around on the agility equipment. Staff will kind of mess around with them there. They might learn some new skills while they're there. The other cute thing is we've got like TVs going, playing like Animal Planet and Disney while they're there. So it's really a very, very fun environment.
That's awesome. Well, I'll make sure we include all of the links to your website, how to get a hold of you, all the important information in the show notes for the episode. Appreciate both you ladies for stopping in the studio. Anything else before we wrap up today?
Thank you.
Of course.
Thanks for having us.
Of course. Anytime.
This is you
I need
guys
to
are
hear
always
more
awesome.
Dog stories. So.
You could probably go on for a long time with dog stories, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, all kinds.
All right. Well, thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. That's going to wrap up this week's edition of the Chamber Podcast. I appreciate all of you watching and listening. We'll catch you next week with another episode. Take care.